This is Matt from MGMT Boston. On this episode of The Lantern, we are at Greentown Labs today with the CEO, Georgie, here to talk about what they're building here at this organization, why it's super important to Boston, and a little bit more. So, Georgie, thank you so much for having me into your beautiful space here in Somerville.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
All right, the first question, what is Greentown Labs? What are you and your team building?
It's less about what Greentown is building and more about what our members and alumni community are building, solutions that are going to change the world. We are the world's largest climate and energy incubator here. What that means is that we have over 600 companies and alumni in our network. We have over 70 industry partners, the who's who of energy and climate. We have over 750 investors in our network. We have over 200 current members who are building in the labs. Our purpose at Greentown Labs is to create the conditions to help our startups thrive. And what does that mean? What are their priorities? Well, ask any entrepreneur in this space and they will tell you it's product, it's customer, it's talent, and it's capital. And so everything we do here is about how do we enable the conditions and provide the innovation infrastructure to help them move faster, remove friction, and help them win.
And speaking of moving, Georgie just moved her 3 children and family back here to Boston, where she had a prior career at MIT to grow this organization. So thank you for coming back to help us build. Now, what is going on inside of Greentown Labs today that you're excited about that you want to share with the community?
It's such an inspiring place. There's kind of an infectious hope here, urgent optimism, and we're building the solutions of the future. And it's incredible to be a part of that. In the last 6 months, we've had 35 companies join the community. Awesome. Several companies double their footprint in the labs. That proves that they need more space to build. They're continuing to bring in capital, and they need more space to host the phenomenal talent that they're attracting. Boston is the innovation capital of the world, and everybody comes here because we want to solve hard problems, right? And you really feel that here. The ecosystem is very sticky, and it's amazing to be a part of that community.
Now, as the Chief Executive Officer, you have a lot on your plate. What are some of the things you've learned in your career that you leverage into this role that you would pass back to other builders, operators, founders who want to make a huge impact both here in Boston and in the world?
I feel very blessed that I have, throughout my whole career, been surrounded by phenomenal innovators. And it's very hard not to pick up on that infectious hope and optimism about the future, and this belief that the impossible is possible through entrepreneurship. I think there's 4 ideas that are embedded in my belief system and the values of our community that I try to incorporate into how we work here at Greentown. I think the first is being entrepreneur first. Everything we do is just an obsession over how to help them move faster and to scale. So it's the focus on how do you create the physical infrastructure to help them build faster? How do you help connect them to the customers that can help them win as a company? How do you help them attract and retain the best talent? And how do you help them raise the capital they need to move faster? Because the world needs to move faster, climate needs to move faster. But it all centers around this idea of customer obsession, and our customer is the entrepreneur, and everything we do is about helping them move faster and removing the friction so they can win. I think the second is just around this idea that entrepreneurship is a team sport, right? Yeah. Greentown is a special place because we convene the community, we bring people together from many different sectors, from industry, from the investment community, from the political circles, those who want to mentor, those who want to fund, this kind of convening around a shared purpose that we can make the world better together. But that mindset is really important for everything we do. We have different ecosystem players with different incentives, and recognizing that and finding ways to help them work together through shared purpose. We work in different geographies, right? We're in Boston and Somerville, which is the innovation capital of the world, with ties to MIT and other phenomenal innovation centers. And then we're in Houston, which is the energy transition capital of certainly of the United States and possibly the world. So how do we then enable and strengthen the ties across the two ecosystems?
Definitely.
So that's number two. And then I think there is this idea of being anchored in impact. We're in a decisive decade. We have to think about how we generate more energy, how do we reduce emissions significantly, and how do we enable a prosperous planet. We're putting our bet on the entrepreneurs because they're the ones that are going to drive the disruptive innovations to solve the hardest problems on our planet, but they're also going to be the ones that drive the good jobs and drive local prosperity, which is critical in a world where a lot of jobs are disappearing.
Totally. And
so this idea of being anchored in impact, our entrepreneurs and our community, we have to focus on like what is the value proposition to the customer, and you have to hit your revenue targets. But to complement that, the impact and being anchored in impact, I think is what gets you up in the morning and drives you. And then the fourth is just a bias to action, right? Like 80-20 and this kind of urgent optimism. How do you act on that urgent optimism? And you have to have this bias to action. You have to have that infectious hope, but it's paired with like getting stuff done.
Definitely. And last but not least, like how can we help Greentown Labs grow here in Boston and far beyond?
It's about focusing on the entrepreneurs, right? So bringing us back to what do our entrepreneurs want and need. So we need the physical infrastructure to help them build and scale their products. So being part of that community. The second is around how do we help them find and connect with customers? How do we help them bring in the capital they need, and how do we help them bring in talent? So like amplifying their stories and putting a spotlight on their successes and why their solutions are needed in the world, putting a spotlight on their progress and the momentum and the importance of the problems that they're solving. So I think it's like telling their story, but then also helping us connect with others around the ecosystem that want to be a part of this and who can help them scale and grow. And the other, I think, ask for the Boston community is, as we think about how do we make Greentown work at scale, like we are looking at how do we go deeper in terms of value to the ecosystem, how do we share the magic and go beyond the borders of where we're currently based. And I think the part of that strategy is doubling down on philanthropy, and we just hired a head of philanthropy here at Greentown. Philanthropy can both help us deepen our impact locally, just as a museum is access to history, or a school is access to education, or a library is access to knowledge. We're local innovation infrastructure that's access to jobs and talent and innovation, and we want to bring in philanthropists to support that vision locally. And then there's the catalytic philanthropy that Greentown can leverage with the learnings and the strategy driven through our community to find ways to help Greentown drive global impact in the next chapter. Decisive decade. We've got a lot of work to do, but the community here in Boston and Houston is behind us, and we're really excited to see where the next decade takes us.
This is Georgie, the CEO of Greentown Labs, Matt from MGMT Boston on this episode of Lantern. Thanks so much for having me to Somerville.